Discarded Beasts, File 3, August. Kalita looked towards where she had heard the noise come from. Sitting to the far left of the waiting room was what appeared to be a bowl of peanuts. Kalita was instantly put on edge by the sight of the nuts. She had been severely allergic to peanuts for her entire life, and had grown such a fear of them that the mere sight would induce panic into her very soul. She attempted to pay it no mind and continue reading. However, a low, rumbling sound once more distracted her from her dictionary. It was the sound of the waves crashing over her feet. Looking up, she found herself at a crowded beach. The sky was covered in clouds, and the ground was a bit foggy in the distance, but the sun still managed to shine through, bringing light to what would otherwise be a dark day. In the distance, she heard her parents talking about something. She tried to listen in, but all she could hear was the ocean's call. She looked out onto the horizon and watched as a large wave fell onto her. Yet when she expected to fall, she remained standing. Looking around, the beach was now empty, with only her remaining. Despite this, she could still hear her parents talking. Kalita awoke with a sudden jolt in her bed. She had not had dreams like this in quite a long time, not since her childhood. She tried to remember what happened, but just as quickly as she awoke, the dream faded from her memory, as if it were sand falling through a broken hourglass. She knew it meant something, but she didn't know what. Regardless, she had more pressing matters to attend to. Rising from her bed, she changed out of her pajamas and went on to her morning routine. Showering, brushing, flushing, and all the other things she needed to take care of. Upon her completion of these events, she tried to think on what to do next. Her housing situation had been mostly taken care of, but she knew it would be unwise to remain in town for too long. With no better options, she decided to leave her room and ask if Mark knew any of the open houses she could live in. Exiting her room and heading for the center of the inn, she started to take note of the fact that the inn was surprisingly empty. It was only now that she began to piece together just how strange this inn was. Despite being built into a mountain, it seemed as if the hallway stretched on almost endlessly, yet in spite of such a spacious motel existing, she had not once heard or seen a single person other than herself and the innkeeper. Her fears began to dissipate as she headed to the lounge, as the distinct sound of two people talking began to make its way into her ears. As she entered the room, she realized the conversation was between Mark, who was standing near another counter, and someone she did not recognize. The individual was wearing a pink overcoat over an orange shirt that failed to cover said individual's stomach area, while their pants and shoes were a dark brown, with several pieces of metal strapped onto them. Finally, her hair was an asymmetrical cut, the right half being longer and larger than the left. Resting atop her head was a pinkish hat, wrapped in with a blue stripe that held a single feather. The individual sat at the table near the counter, staring confusedly at Kalita, likely because Kalita was doing the very same to her without realizing it. "Excuse me?" they asked. "Do you mind not staring at me?" Which Kalita snapped out of her own head. "I'm so sorry, I got lost in thought. I just came to get some breakfast. Yeah." Kalita spat out the first explanation she could think of, trying and failing to look unfazed by her loss of focus. Mark, sensing the awkwardness filling the room, tried to lighten the situation by jumping in as Kalita approached the counter, asking, "If it's breakfast you're after, then I'd be happy to serve. What can I get for you today?" As she took a seat, she heard the individual sniff the air before turning away, with something apparently smelling bad despite Kalita's nose being blind to any foul odors. "Just something small. I'm not super hungry," Kalita lied. "Certainly. Do you have any allergies?" Mark asked, and after a moment of thinking, Kalita answered, "Nope." In a moment, Mark crawls underneath the countertop, disappearing for a second before coming back up with a peanut butter sandwich. "Here you are, a fresh peanut butter sandwich," he exclaims as if he presents it as it was a prized meal. Kalita thanks Mark before quickly devouring the sandwich. It was good, nothing incredible, just good. The three sat in silence for a moment, Mark and the other person watching Kalita sit in the unbearable awkward silence. "Are you sure you don't want anything more? Maybe a drink? Or something else?" Mark asked as he tried to keep the deafening silence at bay. Kalita thought for a moment before responding to him. "Thank you, but no. I'll be fine, though. I do have one question that I would like to ask you, if that's all right." For a single moment, Kalita could swear she saw the individual's eyes dart towards Mark, before returning to her within the same moment. "A house, you say? How lucky you are to have met me today. I happen to be looking to sell a property, but have yet to find a buyer. Should you be interested, I would be more than capable of assisting you." Upon hearing this, Kalita quickly straightened her back and met the individual's eyes with what some people may consider a smile forming across her face. "Oh, thank you so much, Miss, can I know your name?" Kalita's face went blank as she hoped she didn't just blow her one chance to get a house. "You may call me..." The individual paused for an uncomfortable amount of time before saying, "Lilin. Call me Lilin."